All right, let's bring on the voice of the Orange, Matt Park, to talk some more Cuse basketball. And, Matt, I mean, you had a front row seat for what happened Tuesday night. I mean, from where you sat, why did that one get away? What was the biggest issue?
Well, I think it's a lot of the same things we've been talking about throughout the year, and it's all under the heading of just not enough. They just don't have enough to put teams away. They're not consistent enough to see it through for 40 minutes. They don't have the firepower when needed. And, so the hard part of that one to swallow was as that lead went from 16 down to 7 to 5, you kind of had a feeling that it was probably inevitable, and once Pitt took the lead in the second half, it was going to be very hard to get it back, and that's the way it proved out to be with just the one lead change in the game, and the rest is history. I think we've seen a lot of it. There, you can point to all the little stats and factoids that we all know at this point about how that game unfolded, but at the end of the day, they didn't get the stops they needed and could not sustain what was an incredible shooting start.
Matt, you and I have watched a lot of basketball games together in our time. I don't know the answer to this question. How did Syracuse
basketball? I agree with you, Paulie.
How did Syracuse basketball get here to this point? What is your take on what do you think happened that this is where Syracuse basketball is this year?
I think we could, you guys talk about this all day, every day. We could go on and on and on. I think it's a lot more to it than probably is given credit or that we have the time for in a short segment. But look, the big picture part of it is, again, it's human performance. It's going to, by definition, have inconsistencies and ebbs and flows and all of that. I think what I've said about this year is the transfer portal and building your roster that way is inherently hit or miss. And they basically missed. And that's among the reasons they had the injuries and some other things that this team just hasn't had what it takes to compete at this level this year. You want to look back at other years, there's different explanations and market forces, but you guys know what they are. I mean, the idea that because Syracuse had a couple of years where they started, 17-2, that they're always going to start 17-2. That's just a fallacy. It's just not that way, and we love the Sweet 16 and love the tournament, and it's fantastic. It's not our birthright, and so, again, we could go on and on, and I'm happy to answer anything more specifically, but the how did you get here is the product of a lot of different factors. If you're talking about this year's team specifically, it just was not built with the best pieces, and that's being revealed over the course of the games.
What do you think's more crazy that's happened in our lifetime with Syracuse basketball? The fact that this year has pretty much gone off the rails, or the fact that it had never gone off the rails in our lifetime?
Well, I think not enough is given to the second part of that thought. Like, yeah, this stinks, and I think the chatter and talk radio and social media, which we all are absorbed in, I do think that I don't know that that's representative of the entire fan base, but that group of people obviously is very upset and voices that to an extreme degree, and everybody gets that. Sometimes I want to wonder, do you ever wonder how 280 of the 350 programs have any fans at all? In other words, if you think that the only thing that matters is making the tournament, or if your year is not successful, you don't pay attention at all, there's a lot of programs. Why would you ever pay attention ever? What is, think about, and I'm talking about Power 4 programs, right? I mean, think about in Nebraska, just one that pops in my head. They've never been good ever. So they should never have any fans show up or never have any support. So we're going on a tangent here, but the idea is, look, it's a tough year. It stinks. Yes, it's 2 out of 3, but it's only 2 out of 50. And so I'm not trying to apologize for it or whatever, just to provide a little bit of context that, nobody's thrilled about where the product and the situation is right now, but every effort is being made to improve it, and it's the way it goes. That's sports. There's no guarantee that you're going to roll out of bed and be at the top of the league all the time.
And I feel like we've been super negative. I want to point something out, too, and maybe you can address this. We were at Pittsburgh the other night, and it came up in my Twitter feed. There were 6,000 people at the Pitt game, and they're decent this year. They're not great, but there were still only 6,000 people there. We've had over 20 at the past two, and that may be the opponent, but Syracuse fan base, it's different, right? The fans are great, even though the most vocal part are negative.
Yeah, I mean, to have what we would consider the fact that you could make it a story that in air quotes only 23,000 people came to the Duke game is indicative of just how strong the fan base is and where the bar has been set in terms of fan following and selling tickets to the games and everything else. That obviously being among the attendance leaders every year since the Dome has been opened, essentially, is a great point of pride in the program. It's not an automatic, and I think everybody knows that. And people understand that when you don't perform well, you don't sell as many tickets. People don't enjoy themselves as much at the games, and that's why every effort is being made to improve it. But you kind of pointed out, Paulie, in some respects, when you think about the expression "rock bottom" or do you want to see worse? Yeah, it can get a whole lot worse. And so that's what's out there. I think they're going through a rough patch. Programs go through rough patches. Every program in America, every single one, has a losing season. I don't care how good you think Duke is or Kansas is or Gonzaga is on a regular basis. They've had their rough patches, and Syracuse is having a rough patch. They're trying to work on it. That's all I can say.
How confident are you that that rough patch will start to turn in the other direction going into next year? When we know NIL is important and they've got a couple good freshmen coming in, but do you think they can compete to the degree they need to compete in the NIL space to get the players they need to get back through that rough patch?
Well, again, that part of it remains to be seen. I know that the structure is there, the intent is there. Going back to the attendance and that type of thing, the incentive you would think would be there. All of that, it has to sort of coalesce. You need the market to have the capacity to raise the funds that you're talking about. This fundraising initiative that the university is announcing this week is, hey, we're trying to get $50 million over the next 3 years and to catch up with the concept of having a $20 million payroll for the athletic department across the board. Well, the first thing that they're trying to put out there is, in addition, obviously, to the demonstrating the need for the fundraising, is to say Syracuse is going to spend the maximum. So the cap was what we believe with all the legislation when that goes through is going to be $20.5 million. What the university is saying is they're going to spend up to that limit of $20.5 million. Not every school will. Mid-majors and below, I think, are going to be hard pressed to come up with that kind of money that they can give to the student athletes. At the ACC level, I would imagine every school is going to say that we're going to come through with at least that number, and you're going to feel like an outsider or a non-competitor if you don't. So that's the first step, is to kind of indicate that, hey, you're in the game. Am I confident that with the work that's being put in, the staff that they have, are they going to do a better job of evaluating the acquisitions and who fits next year's roster? Yes, I do. At the end of the day, though, what you wind up with is the intersection of who you want and what you have in terms of the resources, right? That has to do with the car you drive and everything else. How much do you prioritize? What did you shoot for? I mean, some people drive a Lexus and some people drive a Corolla.
Yeah, and
what you wind up with is where it fits in your budget, what you're able to negotiate, and that's what remains to be seen. Am I confident in the talent evaluation skills of the head coach and the general manager? Yes, I am.
All right. My last question, just looking ahead to next week, Matt. It's, can we say it's an important game, right? I mean, it's NC State. If they lose it,
yeah,
then
every game is important. I mean,
okay.
they play 30-some games a year. They're all important.
Right.
I am not among those that's the most gloomy about, oh, my God, they're going to miss the tournament. I don't think they're going to, but you can't slip up and lose out, for instance.
Right.
Certainly a game against NC State should seal it, that you don't have to concern yourself with it. I think the separation is there between the bottom three and the rest, but it's not like they're clearing the bar by a lot right now. So that's what it's for. I think anything here at the end of the year to keep it from feeling like it was a complete slip away, that all of a sudden the bottom fell out and they ended the year on a whatever it might be 6 or 8 game losing streak. That would be horrible, obviously, in a season that's already been bad. So every win you can get offsets that a little, makes you feel a little bit better about it, and so sure, they're all important.
All right, Matt, good stuff. We'll see you over at Carrabba's tonight for the Adrian Autry Show. Thanks for coming on.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, voice of the Orange, Matt Park. And with that, we'll hit our final timeout. We'll wrap things up next on ESPN Radio.
If you don't care if they make the ACC tournament, you're not a fan. Bottom line.